Greetings, everybody. Hello, this is Taveau DRC of Taveau Creative Leadership, Crossbody Unity, a pioneering ministry apostle. Of course, we scare everybody, and they're terrified when they say an apostle, and then there's a female, Caucasian female. But that's all right. You can do that. You can have your bias, your choices. Everybody can hear for themselves. What I'm going to do is talk frankly, and I'm going to say, if there are people that are really... Now, I come from a very respectful... I know the people groups of God. I've served this body of Christ, studied doctrine for decades. I know African-American, dark-skinned people, rhythmic people really get me. They like me, and I like them back. And there are people who are not in the boys' club that are Caucasian here and there that are just as nice, and, they are not biased either. They're not into what the false teaching as submissionism or targeting women or using women like Eli Template priesthood. I've studied, I really respect men. I want men. I was brought up to raise men to be the head of home, head of ministry, head of everything. But there are days in which we live that there are unusual circumstances, and once in a while a Deborah may be brought out. And I can teach longer. This is supposed to be not long-winded, all right? So the Deborah came out, and I happened to have Rod Parsley. Rod Parsley is not a whelp. He's a leader, but he's not a Levitical patriarch or a good old person. He may act like, look like one. So we don't want stereotypes. But anyway, he had a commentary in his Reformed Bible in the last decade, that helped me. It said about Deborah, when God looks around of his people, not the other people, his people, he can't find enough mighty, godly, real men, strong men, he'll call up the women. And I think that's why we're here. So I look around at all the different kinds of females, all right, red state and blue state. I look at all the African Americans. I'm pro everybody. This is an organic, trying to figure out who Jesus was. He's from the Middle East. He didn't target anybody. He wasn't character assassination. So we're pretty healthy on that, but we'll talk more later. But I like to talk to people that I see online. I know there's some on land who really target women, Christian women, for speaking. Now, I know that group. I know a lot of who you are. None of them have spoken to me, but I know it's out there. My daddy wouldn't like that. He was a Christian pastor. Black people don't do that. They don't nurse grudges against women. They don't, say they're a type. That's icky. To me, I figured if they target a person who happens for their race, their gender, their color, their style, or anything, they are biased and they are off. So we're talking to Christians here. Anybody, I teach on authority. Against legalism, against accusation, but pro all people hearing God. A revelation like God would speak to you based on what you feel in your conscience, and the Bible, like Paul, Philippians 2:12, working out your own salvation. It was supposed to be that way now into all these different factions, groups, submissionites. I believe the worst case of authoritarianism, submissionite, totalitarianism, that type of thing is all money, systems, cults, clans, biased cliques are juvenile. They're not in the Bible, but they are there, and they own the turf of money and politics a lot in the Christian sense. So we're there to teach, correct, give you submitted selas, but also say, listen, this is a perspective. Nobody has to join. You don't have to be under you. You don't have to be, I'm not over you, but you're not over me. If anything, a female would be liberated, or a man would be liberated to raise up females who are in respect. Chain of command, Ephesians 4, like my daddy did. Ephesians 5:21 was the first church. So with that said, I'm thinking of authoritarians and shouting at women online when they think they're, out of order and submitted. You come from low class. You must have been raised by, low people who didn't respect women, up in the hills. You might have gotten fancy, you might have gotten saved, you might have gotten non-biased, you think, but really there's something on there. And I'm teaching Adam and Eve, chain of command, respect for boundaries. I'm teaching don't word curse. I'm thinking, what is a Jezebel? What is a Jezebel? There are two scriptures that teach that backwards and forwards. And I teach about money, the love of money, the relationship of money, having money, not having it. But I teach joy. This is it, joy. So there are two kinds of, there are a lot of Christian men with dispositions. Some are more authoritarian tendency. Some are maybe too meek and mild. So we want authority without controlling authority. We want a balance. And I believe in defining people groups. Subcultures of Christian men, let's say, there are patriarchs like Abraham, anchor dispositions, and matriarchs, wise, sound, stable individuals who the family, the business, the ministry, go to for healthy advice. They're stable and they usually are good breadwinners. We're pro them. It's just when they got out of order into the occult, into the witchcraft of false authority, into being cruel, into being totalitarian, and to being biased in ministry, that is when it caught my flag. Because any kind of controlling spirit in ministry is false, and therefore I looked it up. I've studied it, Paul and all these teachings. I know the Bible, and I think, where did this come from? And I asked ChatGPT AI last year. I said, where was the first church, including all persons, men, women, the first apostles, all men? Were they lay, the first church, even marriages, all Ephesians 5:21, first mutual submission, the fear of the Lord. Not bowing and scraping, not the boys or girls club of Christian. No, it was humility. That's what we're looking for, first church style. So then I asked her, I said, well, if ChatGPT said they were all that way, even marriages, where's that taught? So then I asked ChatGPT, I said, if that's what happened, when did the authoritarian controllers and totalitarian type fascist ministry styles come in? And it said to me, after the influences of Rome and Greece got in the first church. Wow, we got some defragging to do. So I'm pro real men, real Christian men leading, all colors. You, thank God, take the burden off of us. However, there are people that are not, healthy like that, and they may not be healthy, so therefore we have to study our doctrine, white, black, and brown, and we prefer to honor the people, but we watch out, because there is such a thing as right now the 2 Timothy 3:1-5 from Search, Turn Away Fellowship, and that's why we're here, to give you the information and the revelation for our nation, because at the level, grassroots, these subcultures are really out to get you, submitted to them, but they're Pharisees, and it really traces back to occult, false authority, Salem witch trials, spying women, all the old Jezebel hunters from the heresy, the heresy hunting school of the Mount William theology, many other things. So we'll talk more about it later, but I want to stir it up. If I were to say somebody I've had literally, not many, but most people are nice, especially, Caucasians and everybody. They mind their business. They know their doctrine. They know their Bible. All right, well, here's the thing. I had people years ago when I first started this big study of Levitical patriarchy in ministry. I had people who singled me out, jumped me in a crowd, marched for Jesus. I had a board. I had a husband, he said, go do whatever God says. I was out there under authority, and these people were this kind of authoritarians. They were this kind of tongue talkers. They're tongue talkers that were into I think the apostles of the gates of the city, maybe that false teaching. Anyway, they jumped me, but also I met 30 others. Through the years, because I was in ministry around the area back then, and they were none of them dark-skinned at all. So I think a lot of this low-quality ministry is low esteem, targeting is out of fear, or just false, superstition from the Mount William School of Theology, mentoring, and even witchcraft to control people subliminally, which is false doctrine. And I want to tell these, if anybody, Matthew 7:23 says, out from me, you who use false authority, which is also iniquity, lawlessness. Jesus said that to those who use false authority, you could lose your salvation. Because it said to the book of Acts crowd, you prophesied in my name. You said you cast out devils in my name, says Jesus. You lay hands on the sick and did signs and wonders in my name. And I say, out from me, you who practice lawlessness, witchcraft, false authority. It really says iniquity and lawlessness, and it translates Bible Strong Concordance into the word false authority, using, abusing, accusing, subliminal, all this stuff. That's why we have the train wreck at a lot of Christian fellowships, all right? So when I've looked, and I'm going to hasten this one, I've looked at how all these online TMZ tabloid people single out a lot of famous preachers. Usually they target what they call prosperity teachers. We'll teach that later. And that really bothers me because they're using it to get money. They target them for monetized videos, so they are really using it to make themselves prosperity. Well, then I see them doing it mostly to men, but there once in a while these women, the same top women that are known, tongue talkers. Well, the ones that do that, in my opinion, that target people by name and show their faces in clips that are mean, they don't know their theology, but they're called cessationists, I would think. They don't believe in women doing anything, and that's their choice. They have their choice. But when I looked at what they do, because I know authority, and they're defiling somebody's name, and they're making money off of, and they're aiming it at a prophetess, and the prophet woman, she is married, and they're not even in the movement. They believe in speaking the tongues, which is more rhythmical and more diverse, which they are. So I would say to these people who go after the women with authority, are these women, why are you going to the women? You're out of order. They're married and they're living it out. The husband is for it. They're with them in the ministry. They're just behind supporting them. You're out of order. Oh, you're stepping your boundaries. You're false. You're word cursing, failing to discern God's anointing. And these ladies are married, and the husband says yes, so they are Ephesians 5:21, mutual submit to the fear of the Lord, and 5:22, because he says it's all right. All right. We'll talk more later. God bless you.